Classified military technology and downed Enochian craft exposed by a former Black Ops soldier. A man known as Charlie appeared in episode 122 of the Confessionals podcast, blowing the whistle on a secret government mission in which he claims to have participated back in early 1990s. And for that mission, an undisclosed branch of the United States military ordered Charlie and his team to rendezvous with and escort a group of scientists to recover a downed aircraft in the remote wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. And what happened during that uncanny mission had never been talked about publicly by anyone, making Charlie a target for federal agents who later paid a visit. Like any other American that has felt the call to serve their country, Charlie decided to visit a military recruiter who signed him up to take an official aptitude test to chart his capabilities. After the test, the military offered Charlie a position in intelligence before shipping him out to 12 weeks of boot camp, where Charlie says they break the civilian out of you. And during the indoctrination process, higher-ups selected several recruits for special operations. There were about 80 guys in each group, some more proficient than others, and Charlie was one of them. But in the long run, Charlie's superiors placed him in a special operations group before shipping him to California, where he continued with 3 months of schooling before being deployed into the field. All of the schooling that I did, it led me to believe that I was going to be doing a particular type of intelligence collection, said Charlie. So I thought that we were going to have an objective. We would collect against that objective. We would take information and we would create intel out of that, and we would push that up the chain of command or ladder or whatever it needed to go to. However, nothing could have been more farther from the truth. Charlie's superior they had another plan for him, which is where his adventure began. Reporting for duty, Charlie showed up to a secure facility where he was ushered to his post by security forces down an elevator 3 to 4 levels underground. He arrived in another locked-down room where he met his superiors, instructing him to undergo further schooling, which Charlie was not too happy about. After all, how much education does one need, he thought. Eventually, the military assigned Charlie to a foreign-based, non-conventional unit, primarily set up to conduct intel, surveillance, and recon (ISR) missions. The team completed 3 successful tasks before the military placed Charlie in a special 8-man squad. The squad, tasked with an entirely new search and recovery mission, was ordered to look for particular downed aircraft and extract as much data as possible before destroying the craft, which landed inside hostile territory. The mission started in the open sea aboard a scientific vessel flying the flag of another nation. Charlie's team was assigned to protect a group of 8 scientists equipped to locate and destroy the said aircraft. And he explained, we had to go aboard a scientific research vessel, so it was basically a ship that was flagged to a different country, he said. So we flew into this country, we boarded the ship, the 8 of us, so it was the 8 military personnel and 8 scientists, and then on board they had their own ship's crew, so there were about 34 or so guys working on that ship. That was just their job. The lieutenant briefed the squad and scientists for their mission and ISO prep once the ship reached international waters, which is when Charlie noticed that the scientists looked scared, quote-unquote, as if they knew something he didn't. He said, so as we were getting ready and I'm talking to some of the scientists, I noticed that they looked nervous. I couldn't tell if they knew more than what we did or what, but something was off. Yeah, so my spidey sense was basically tingling, he said. Now, the planned mission consisted of a 2-day trek inland on foot to the location of the downed aircraft, 1 day at the craft and 2 days back. Go 2 days in. Once we find the site, we were going to spend about 12 hours there, do what we had to do, and then 2 days out, and then back on the ship, and then done, he explained. That was the plan, and no problem. According to Charlie, the main ship remained in the covert posture throughout the entire mission to evade detection. 2 skiffs called Ribs deployed the squad and scientists to the rocky sandy shore, starting their assignment in a hostile woodland area. The team was equipped with HF communication equipment and set up comms checks with specific time windows to check in with the ship and in which they would communicate. And he said, we took some comms so that we could talk with Alpha Kilo, which is in the ship, which we called Alpha Kilo for his particular mission. There was just some weird things going on, because once you get out there, you're on your own, he said. Charlie said that the area was not friendly and made it clear that something could go off if the team was spotted, which added to the danger. The squad had to be careful because ultimately their job was to protect the 8 civilian scientists and their equipment. After all, it was the scientists that had all the technical know-how, Charlie said. There was a 5-day window before a significant storm would move in and roughen seas quite a bit. Charlie said it was going to put us in the sea state of 6, which is a pretty hefty for the ship we were on, so it was very important that we got in and out as quickly as possible, he said. The team arrived under cover of darkness and packed their way into the dense woodline, making their destination. He said, so we get to our second comms window, we can't communicate. So I'm going out over the radio, basically saying like Alpha Kilo, radio check over, he told. And he said, and it's just silence, no one's coming back. At that point, several scouts went out ahead of the rest of the team, following the same drift line. The 2 scouts failed to make contact upon nightfall, and the radios were squawking randomly, which was out of the ordinary. Hence, negative things were already happening, but the team pressed on with the looming storm emerging. The crash site? Very low frequencies below 10 Hz were emitted from the aircraft that punched through the forest canopy at a highly vertical angle. The signals peaked as the team arrived, which is when things got interesting. The craft lay in a valley, the wings pushed to the back by design. The matte black checkerboard pattern covered the ship's skin, which the military sent the team to board and retrieve sensitive data from the craft's computers. The outside of it was like a checkerboard. It was black on black, he explained. It was matte black. This entire thing was black. Every other check on the craft was like a ceramic tile almost, but it was super cold. All the ceramic tiles were way colder than they should have been, he said. The large tear along the aft section appeared to be what brought the craft down, but the cause of the incision was unknown. Charlie said, I started to feel uneasy. I think that part of the tension was bleeding over from the scientists. Nevertheless, Charlie boarded the craft with one of the scientists and began extracting the data as fast as possible. The tech was somewhat traditional, nothing ultra-high tech, allowing Charlie to plug in his equipment and remove the data. He said, I was able to connect. I would extract all that data I could. I would upload a virus into the system, and then I would move on to the next system, he said. And that's when the story starts getting a little bit strange, he said. Charlie said he arrived at a particular workstation in which the screen was still on, and that's when he noticed that it had a language. It had characters on the screen with a dialect he'd never seen before. He was familiar with 7 languages on site, so not identifying the language was unusual for him. Without hesitation, Charlie plugged in his terminal to the console and began extracting data. During the extraction, out of curiosity, the young soldier pulled out his field manual and began to look for a reference to the characters displayed on the screen. That's when the guy with him came over and asked him, "What are you doing?" And Charlie explained, and he put his hand calmly but very sternly on the book, and I was looking through, so I looked up at him, and he said, "You're not going to find it in there." And Charlie said, and I said, "Well, how do you know?" or something like that. And he said, "It's Enochian, as in the book of Enoch," the scientist said. Our pupils were locked, and I could see his chin quivering. Charlie explained. The guy was scared, and he knew Charlie wanted an explanation. "It's an ancient demon language," the man replied to Charlie, who said he was in disbelief. Charlie said, "I didn't want to believe him," as he retracted his manual from the man who always conducted himself politely and professionally. Charlie said the man doubled down on him once he saw Charlie did not believe him. That's when the man put his hands on Charlie's manual as Charlie drew it away. He looked at me again and he said, "Get your job done and let's get the F out of here," Charlie said, reliving the fear of the moment. To top it all off, the crew was missing. Nobody was on board. They vanished without a trace. Who was piloting the craft? As a caveat, Charlie pointed out in the episode that the aircraft was unmarked, which at the time he thought was odd. However, he remembered the strange language he saw on the screen. Maybe it's an Air Force spy plane, he wondered. Before his team left, they applied thermite strips on the craft's fuselage, incinerating it into a pile of ash. According to Charlie, who rejoins the show in episode 352, his story attracted federal agents to visit Charlie at his home after episode 122 initially aired in 2019. Charlie maintains that the agents arranged a confidential meeting with his attorney, adding credence to his story. Enochian is an occultic language said to be angelic and to be derived from Enochian angels. And the source is episode 122, Secret Military Enochian Technologies, The Confessionals. This is from IntelliHab Shepherd Ambulas. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.